Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome to the Beverly Hills View. Our guest is native Angelino, photographer, actor, Alexandra Hedison. I met her long ago at Marymount High School, where my twins also went. Alexandra and her sister went to the Lachine Ballet Academy right across the street from our studio, and also my twins went there, and her mother and I used to take the mother's class at 9 o'clock in the morning. So Tanya used to have her kid, Tanya Ria Bushinska, who was married to Lachine, used to have her mothers come in the morning and then have the kids come in the afternoon. And so that's where all of our kids went. The other thing is Tatiana used to live up the street on Alpine. So we're very, very connected here. Now, back to Alex and her schooling. She went to Marymount High School. She attended SUNY Purchase and UCLA. Her photos have been exhibited all over the world, from Portugal to Singapore, from London to Los Angeles, and most recently in Paris, where she spent weeks on end in that beautiful city. Hello.
Hello.
You started your career as an actor because that's when I met you, right?
I know, that's true.
At Marymount, you were acting. Did you do a play at Marymount?
I did. I did plays at Marymount. Well, you know, my dad's an actor, so I grew up in Beverly Hills. I grew up, you know, going to plays and seeing movies and being with my dad and being on set and thinking, oh, I guess that's what I'm going to do. Meanwhile, I'm in high school in the art classes all the time, and art and advanced art, and that's all I was interested in.
And your mother was a writer. She used to write.
My mother wrote. My mom did a million things, from writing to landscape design. That was her. I mean, she ended up being quite a big landscape designer.
Was she English?
Yes.
So
English and South African. Yeah.
But that English garden thing. Yeah. She used to just love that.
Yeah. She just.
And what kind of influence was she on you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean,
we love Bridget.
We love Bridget. My mom, as you know, passed away 2 years ago, and she was the biggest influence of my life. I mean, I think so many of our mothers are. My mother was brilliant and funny, and you know, always fighting for rights.
She was a stay-at-home mom, but she did all of that.
She always wanted to work in some capacity. And in those days, it was like, well, you should stay at home mom. That's all you need to do, right?
We were all doing that, though.
Yeah.
We were taking care of our kids and also doing the things that Bridget was doing. You talked about your father, David Hedison, as an actor. And was he doing a series then?
He was doing so many different, I mean, there were so many different things he was doing. He was always, you know, always doing some part somewhere, whether it was theater or TV, film, he was doing so much.
Did you travel with him at all for that
Sometimes.
business?
I mean, on summer he would do summer stock and we would go away. We'd go away with him and, you know, go to the East Coast when he was doing plays.
Well, that was a wonderful time for you as a child to have that in your background.
Yeah.
So as you grew up, and you graduated from high school and you attended these colleges, you were acting. And you had a series and you had great reviews.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
Well, what's crazy is that I started acting and I was making money and doing well. And I had this hobby, which was photography. But I was doing it all the time. And as you know, time went on, I found that I was annoyed when I'd have to go to an audition or go to work and I had to cancel a shoot. So the shooting really and my art practice really took over.
Is that how it started?
That's how it started.
I remember meeting you, running into you at Art Services one time, and you were having your photographs framed, and I was going like, "What are you doing with these photographs? You've got to go, you know, do your acting job."
Right.
And you
That's
were
right.
still.
It's like, I mean, it's like, it really took over everything, and I loved it. And I wasn't loving acting so much. I was really, it wasn't, behind the camera was much better for me.
Well, behind the camera then, you started directing.
I did, yeah.
So you directed.
I did some directing.
So what happened with that, directing?
I like directing, but there's something about working with a camera and working on my own that, for me, I'm able to communicate something just with my work.
But isn't directing like behind the camera too?
It is, but it's also, it's really collaborative. You can't just, you're not just collaborative with the actors, but with all the technicians, with the DP, as a photographer, I'm also the DP. I'm also the, not performer,
but you
I'm
interact,
seeing things.
don't you? You interact with your subject? Oh, maybe not so much.
Not so much, because I'm not shooting people, at least the artwork that I'm showing. I've taken lots of pictures of people, but I really like it. There's something very contemplative for me about going out into the world and shooting what it is that I see.
So you're directing yourself in a way.
I'm directing myself.
Yeah. So the directing was an adjunct maybe to what you were doing, or maybe did it come along with it?
I think it comes along with it, and there are lots of things I can do. I may still direct something. You never know.
So you talk about photography and the love of photography. Do you call it a traditional photography, whatever that is? I don't know what traditional photography is. Snap? I don't know.
I don't know what traditional photography is anymore either. So much is changing. We're seeing so much of right now. Cameraless photography is really making a huge comeback. Alternative processes, I don't know, are those traditional? Is just shooting in a camera and shooting film, is that traditional? It's sort of,
I don't know,
changing.
Is representational traditional?
Maybe.
Portrait traditional?
Maybe, and if it is, that's not what I'm doing, for sure. And I do think that the way I'm presenting work is like, it makes you look at things in a different way. Something that is completely ordinary, it becomes abstract.
So you're abstracting things, which is not traditional,
You're right.
really.
No.
In a way.
You're right.
Well,
it isn't a traditional way of looking.
Right.
And I feel like nothing about my life has been that traditional, so it probably
No, not
works.
even your acting, right?
No.
It wasn't traditional. You
Well,
took roles that were like way ahead of their time.
Well, in the beginning of my acting, I was doing performance art, and I was doing theater, and I was doing things.
You
I was
were?
at Highways in Santa Monica,
Oh,
and I would
yeah.
there were lots of different spaces I was working with Tim Miller and.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was great in the very beginning. So I've always looked to, like, how can I push the envelope? How can we have a conversation that's real and interesting and more than just the regular
performance
thing?
art really does, to me, lead into fine art and into probably photography, because each thing you do as a performance is
Right.
not so much a video.
Right.
You
That's
know,
right.
like it takes certain shots.
And it's really about the conversation. What is it that we're talking about? What is it that we're trying to show? I'm much more interested in kind of diving deep than doing something that's presentational. And even with acting, that's what was boring me so much.
But maybe that's right. Did the stage bore you? Because maybe that was the thing. Each night was different on the stage.
Well, it's not so much that. I think it was my choices as an actor. I was doing 1-hour drama series. I look at what people are doing now. They're writing their own material. They're producing their own material. They're doing these wild, amazing things. I think if I was 20 now, I'd be doing that more if I was still acting.
They are still doing that. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Because our artist friends' kids are like in their 20s, 30s, and they're also writing their own material.
They're making their
and
own
acting,
work.
And they're doing their own work.
Yeah. So I think the key is I have to do my own work, whether it's directing, whether it's photography, and if I ever do any kind of acting again, it will probably be within my own project.
So what kind of camera do you use? Because we're talking traditional,
Right.
Traditional used to be film.
Right.
And
There's
click.
so many cameras. I mean, there's film. There's medium. I probably prefer medium format film because, again, I like being on my own. And when you get larger, I start needing people to assist me.
What does medium format mean?
So it's the size of your negative.
So you have a negative? You still use negatives?
So I still use film.
You still.
But I also do digital. And I found that digital is actually really challenging in an amazing way. There's so much work that you have to do after you shoot, and I'm liking that too.
Well, if you do film versus digital, what do you capture in a different way? Say on the film, what shows up better on film than on digital?
That's a really good question. There are many different sort of ways to answer that question, but the main difference for me with film and digital is not actually in the image, it's in how you produce the work. So film, 80% of it is in camera, 10% or 20% is afterwards in the editing, in the developing. with digital, it's the opposite. It feels like
it's all in the
20%
camera.
is 20% is what you shoot, and then 80% you're kind of working to make the image come to life. That's how it feels to me. I spend way more time in sort of behind my computer than I do behind the camera.
Yeah, when it's in your camera and on the computer, you're manipulating it.
Yeah.
But can you get the same nuances? Can you get the shadows? Can you get?
You can.
You can.
Yeah, you can. You definitely can. But it's different when you take. When I was shooting film, or when I am shooting film, it's very specific. I'm shooting it to be exactly a certain way, and I know what the f-stop is. I know what the exposure is. But with digital,
and you know what you're going to get.
I know exactly what I'm going to get. I know how to process it. With digital, when I'm processing the digital files, they look kind of flat, and there's a lot of work you have to do to make them to kind of come to life.
I see. So
anyway, any technician who's watching this, any camera person is going to go, "What is she talking about?" It's like
it's so easy. You mean?
No,
it's not so easy.
No, it's not that. No, they wouldn't say it's easy, but I'm not the most technical person.
Oh, I see.
I'm pretty.
But you know
technical.
what to do.
I know what to do, but there are people who are more technical who would give you a much better answer.
Sure, there's people who are much more technical to do the video. I mean, to do the digital.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, David Hockney uses digital now, and he never did, and he
David
knows how
Hockney's
to manipulate it.
He's amazing. I saw his exhibition at the Tate. And
right.
Oh, it was at the Tate, right?
It was
at the Tate?
Yeah, it was at the Tate.
It was in London, and it was
9.
Yeah, Tate Britain. It's amazing. I mean, the video, the
videos
digital,
were great, but the pictures, 9 pictures in a row like that, and going out into the country.
He's so innovative, and so he just keeps pushing it and doing it.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I saw that
in your work. Do you see that? That's what
yes.
happens.
I feel like I keep wanting to move.
And how do
forward.
you do that?
You just push yourself. You like.
But what do you look for? I mean, I know David looks for a way to show all of his surroundings.
Right.
You know, like that. And
I'm definitely not looking to show all of my surroundings. I feel like I'm looking to show something that is right in front of us, that is completely apparent, but we don't see it. I'm presenting something that people might look at, but they don't actually see.
I do. I can see that in your work.
Yeah. I mean, like this for example.
Because when I went to the exhibit in Von Lentil,
yeah,
and I looked at the work, and I went like, oh, she's painting now.
Right.
I thought you were painting.
People thought they were paintings. And in fact, they are paintings, but they're photographs.
Yeah.
And what that work is, the work is called The In-Between. And I shot it in Paris over 4 years. And I shot the windows of storefronts that had closed down, and they paint them over to hide what's going on inside. And all of my work is about these shifting spaces.
It was so great because I had to read to see what it was. And when I saw that it was like photographs of storefronts, I was like taken aback.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked at it again to see what was going on. Well, talking about film and digital, do you print your own film? Can you print it?
I can, but I don't. I really rely on great printers to
And
my
what
work.
about the black and white versus the color?
Well, when I first started shooting, I would print my own work. It was only black and white. And then I moved into color and started really working with labs and understanding how important the printing process is.
Do you stand with the person at the lab?
I
mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't go to a lab anymore. I have a printer who I work with, and she will make prints, and then we'll go and we'll look at it and talk about it. I give direction on how we manipulate it. Then we go back, and we're constantly tweaking and.
So, what is your favorite, black and white or color?
Color.
Color,
for sure.
So, one of the first exhibitions that you did was titled "Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere,"
right?
And it opened in Beverly Hills at the Diane Rosenstein Gallery, right?
It did. It opened right around the corner from here, actually, at Diane Rosenstein Fine Art. It was in Beverly Hills at the time. It was a huge exhibition. We actually had the Beverly Hills police around, like outside the gallery, because there were so many people there. They had to.
Where was that gallery? Right
It was
here?
right on.
Foothill.
Wilshire. No, it was on the corner of Wilshire and was it not Crescent? Wilshire.
Oh, it was right around in there.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. It's the Richard Meyer building on the corner of Wilshire and.
Right. So did that concentrate on Beverly Hills images?
No, the images were all shot in Malibu, where I grew up, before we moved to Beverly Hills. Well, my dad has been living in, I bought the house in Beverly Hills before they even got married. So he's had this,
he did?
the house, since 1968, I think, or 67. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, we bought it when we bought ours.
Yeah, so he's had this house for years and years. But we then moved to Malibu, and the photographs were all taken in
they
Malibu.
were like water, beach,
They
mountains.
were shot from underneath the beach houses in Malibu, where my sister and I would play all the time. And I shot many, many images, film and digital, tons of different cameras, and then made these composites where I put all of the images together. So there's this sort of dialogue about time and place and season. And
did that same show go to Portugal?
Yes,
it did.
It did. Yeah.
And when you do something like that, like you showed at Diane Rosenstein's, who's now on Highland.
She's on Highland at a great space. Yeah.
She's at a great space, and it's right next door to the ballet class that I go to.
Oh my God.
Which is kind of like the extension of what Lachine did on Foothill.
Right.
The same people are going there.
Oh my gosh, that's so
So
funny.
Diane's there, and that work showed here. Then it showed in Portugal. How many prints of each? How many
editions of
prints
3
of each image?
Each image was an edition of 3.
Is that what you always do?
I try and keep it small with this series, which is called The In-Between. They're editions of 5.
Oh, so is that the most you've done? Editions of 5?
No, I think when I first started out, I did more, but as I've continued, I like making it more and more precious. It might eventually go to one-of-a-kind images.
Well, and tell us why that is. Tell us, and how do? You sign each and do the number, or where do you sign? That's another thing.
I sign on the back of the photograph.
Because that's proper, right?
Yeah. That is
But
proper,
why is it?
but sometimes it's hard to sign on the back if you're mounting something, and then it attacks. You have to then sign the mount, and then you sign the back of the frame.
Oh,
also.
you sign the mount.
Yeah.
But if the mount gets thrown away, right?
Well,
or the mount,
if it's it doesn't. It's attached to the artwork.
Oh, it's
so
I see.
sometimes, but this work I didn't actually mount it. I hinged it, so I was able to sign the back of the photographs.
You know, Helmut Newton did some photographs of my family and of me, and he actually signed on the front of the page.
Yeah.
Because it had a border around it, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
So that's okay to do.
I think he used a mat. Did he use a mat? Maybe.
No,
Maybe
I
not.
think it's right on.
It's on the image.
Because
Well, a lot of people sign on the front, and that's great.
that's like a piece of art to me, but I think
sign on the front of my work ever.
Photographers don't like to do that usually.
Well, it depends. Depends on if they're traditional or if they're a little more abstract. I think the photographers that I kind of look up to, Catherine Opie and James Welling, and there's so many. But
that's what I was going to ask
these
you.
abstract pieces, you're not really going to sign the front because then you change the composition with your signature.
Right.
So I'm not. If I was shooting a photograph of a person, I might sign it.
These
maybe
that
not.
he did were actually portraits that he was giving to the family.
Mm-hmm.
So they were probably pieces of art to him
Yeah.
that he signed on the front. It wasn't about composition. But I know like a Brassai wouldn't sign on the front, right? Or does he? Oh, maybe he does.
No, I don't think so.
Who influenced
so.
you talking about that in the photography field?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, I really am self-taught, so it's been a process of going to galleries and meeting artists and being introduced to work and kind of finding my own way and my own language in it.
So like Cecil Beaton or a Brassai or
I have to say it was more contemporary photographers like Uta Barth.
Oh, fabulous!
Or
Sarah Moon? No.
maybe, but like originally, maybe more like even Sugimoto or.
Oh, that's very strong. Yeah, black and white, right?
Black and white. I mean, and it's not even necessarily like the kind of work that I do, but there's something about the composition and an understanding of space and, yeah.
So we were talking about Portugal and what you do, and I'm going to pick up this conversation when we come back from the break.
Okay.
And talk about London and Paris. So we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Alexandra Hedison.
to Maddie. Congrats on paying off all those student loans.
Finally, right?
How'd you manage that anyway?
I started tracking my spending, changed a couple of habits.
Wow, I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now. I don't even know how I'm doing it.
Well, have you tried saving a little?
I want to, but where's that money gonna come from? Bill collectors, they're the worst. Am I right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
Not home.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Hi, I'm Joan Agajanian Quinn, and welcome back to the Beverly Hills View. I'm talking to photographer Alexandra Hedison. And one of the things that we were talking about were her shows in Europe. And I think Alexandra lived in London for some time, so we'll find out how that influenced her photography. So you were in London.
I was. I lived there. Well, my mother was from London. She was originally born in South Africa and then moved to London. And I have family there. So I started showing in London in 2008, I think it was.
Oh, you did? You had shows there?
I had a huge show there. It was the Ithaca series, which is the series I did of trees and
Would
it's
it
this
be
one.
this?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, let's hold that up.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
it
this one.
was.
Yeah, it's this one.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic.
and they were massive, massive prints that I did. It was large format film, and I shot in the temperate rainforest in North America and near Seattle.
Oh, so these weren't shot on location. They
Well,
weren't
these were shot in Washington State.
But I mean, not in England.
They weren't shot in England. They were shown first in England.
Did you shoot in England when you were living there?
Well, what's funny is I started shooting the series that I did in Paris.
Oh, you started
That's
there?
when I saw these windows that were painted, and I started taking pictures of them, not just finding them interesting, and then I would travel to Paris and I'd see them, and that's how that series started.
But do we do that here?
Do we do?
Paint
No,
the
we don't
windows?
paint the
No.
windows. We cover them up with paper.
That's what I
Sometimes
thought.
wood, but we cover them up with paper. But there's something that's really compelling to me about that paint.
Because it's the hand.
It's these gestures that
Right.
are different and they're completely unconscious. And also what happens is as the workers inside move up against the paint and they're doing the work,
Things smudge.
things start shifting and they become like these abstract paintings.
So you started shooting those in London.
First
Did
in
you
London.
show them in London?
No, I didn't.
And then were you going back and
I
forth
was going
to
back
Paris?
and forth to Paris, and then I just settled on. I spent a lot more time in Paris eventually, and just started to. I really focused on Paris.
Well, we were at Hockney's show at Beaubourg.
That's right.
And you were there too.
I was there, and I missed you by a day.
But were you shooting on
I was
location?
shooting. I was shooting in Paris the whole time. I mean, I was like a crazy person going
So do you
all
have to
over the
be on
city.
location to get a show together for, say, like Paris or Los Angeles or London?
No, not
Oh,
at all.
you don't? Oh, I
Not
see.
at all. I just happen to show in galleries that are international. For this work, though, the work I shot in Paris, I decided, it was the first time I decided I want to show this work first in Paris.
But was it all Paris
It was
work?
all Paris.
It was all Paris work.
was all Paris.
So that was pretty site specific.
It was. It's the first time it's really been site specific.
And
Well, that's not true. That's actually not true. It has been site specific.
but it was site
before.
specific. Do you have this relationship with the dealer? Does the dealer have anything to do with what you're shooting or how you're going to do
No,
it?
I didn't meet the dealer until after I shot.
Oh.
I didn't have a gallery to
You're
show in.
kidding.
No.
When you were shooting in Paris, you didn't have a gallery?
Nope, I didn't.
Oh, well, tell us how that happened.
I just knew that I wanted to show the work in Paris first. And, you know, you make a decision sometimes and then things start presenting themselves. So there were a couple galleries I met with, and then I met with H Gallery with the director Eliante, who's amazing, completely
H for
amazing.
Hedison.
H for Hedison.
Gotcha,
Yes,
H.
exactly.
Not really H for Edison.
No, it's H for her name, which is Eliante.
Oh, I see.
And with an H. And we met, and we just really got along, and so I started showing with her.
So when you started showing with her, did she ask for a certain kind of work? Did she want you to do portraits?
No.
Did she want you to do?
No, when I started showing with her, I showed her the work that I had just
you wanted
completed.
to-
I said, this is the work that I'm going to be showing, and she loved it and wanted to show right away.
And then when you meet with different dealers
Yeah.
or different dealers, I shouldn't say dealers,
Well,
but
art dealers or
art
gallerists,
dealers or
yeah.
gallerists, do they say we want portraits, landscapes, still lifes? Do they ask you for that?
I've never been asked, which is a really good thing because I probably would do the opposite. I can't imagine someone telling me, like, I'd like you to go out and shoot some
Still
you know,
lives.
this. So I go, like, what? You know, because I don't plan to shoot what I'm shooting. It just happens.
I see.
I find myself shooting something, and when I do it over and over again, I realize that it's something that is worth considering.
Well, do you take those kind of pictures? Do you do you do landscape because here's
These
the
are
forest.
like abstract landscapes. That's really what they are.
Okay, and then portraiture?
I do that on my own, but it's not something I've ever shown. Maybe I will, but it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, the jacket you're wearing,
Yes.
which I'm obsessed with,
John
is
Hartig.
Johnson
Johnson
Hartig,
Hartig,
who's
Libertine,
amazing, who I
Libertine.
haven't seen in years, but I know him, and I took a whole series of photographs of him.
But those were portraits.
They were
then.
portraits, but I just did it because he's so inspiring that I wanted to take photographs of him. So I have to go to his shop. It's in Beverly Hills, right?
No, it's right down on Lillian Way in Hollywood.
Okay, well, I
But
have
he
to
used
see
to
it.
be in Beverly Hills, and he
Yeah.
shows he has a little boutique on one of these streets over here.
He's amazing.
I know, he's so great.
That jacket is
So this
incredible.
looks like photography that you might have done, and then he takes and puts on. Oh, let's have him do your. He can
Yes,
do
exactly.
fabric
Exactly.
with
You
the
can do fabric
pictures.
with my pictures. I love it.
I know.
Exactly.
Oh, that's it. Okay, we designed his whole
Yes.
next thing.
His next series.
So I'm back to what portraits and all that. And you said that you layered it sometimes. Do you make
Yes.
collages? Do you paint? Do you manipulate?
I
'em?
don't make collages. I don't paint on the work. It looks like painting, but I don't. It is really just the image. The only time the image has been altered, really, is when I did the Malibu work and I used multiple images that
Oh,
I
like
put
that.
on top. I call them composites. More than
Right.
collages is taking bits from each and put
Pieces.
it. So, I mean, I guess you could call it collage, but it's not really that.
We have installation of the Paris show.
Okay.
So let's see what some of those look like, because you talked a lot about Paris.
Yeah.
And they'll come on the screen right now and
Okay.
tell us.
Okay,
Let's
so
start
this
on
is,
one side.
This is H Gallery, and these pieces are, probably about 4 feet high by 3 feet wide, and they're all windows. They're of storefronts in Paris that have closed down, and they've been painted over with this paint, and then the paint from the inside gets scraped away accidentally for the most part, or sometimes someone will doodle on the glass. And it creates these really incredible abstract paintings.
Do we have another shot of that installation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one
one
with the
in the
red
middle?
circles.
Oh, the red
The
circles,
red
yeah.
circles. Those red circles are stickers that were left over on the window that they hadn't scraped off yet.
And the black one?
And the black one, sometimes they put up posters on the windows. So there's posters that have come up and been torn down, and they come up and down. And it looks like a reflection. People think it's my reflection, but it
So
isn't.
everything is on the inside of that window, and you're shooting from the outside.
I'm shooting from the outside, and that's what's really interesting is that most of the things are from the inside. The paint is from the inside. The stickers or the posters are on the outside.
The posters are on
and
the
then
outside.
there's all this reflection, which is behind me, which you're also seeing in some of the images. You'll see trees or you'll see buildings.
Oh, I see. What about this white one?
The white one is all paint, and then there are like these posters that come up and go down, and so there's lots of different bits of color on the picture plane on the front.
They're
of the
all different
image.
sizes.
Yes.
So they range from, what's the largest size there?
The largest size is about maybe 5 feet by 4 feet.
Oh, so those really have to be printed professionally.
Yeah, all of them.
Because they're pretty large
they're big.
formats.
Yeah.
And then do you frame those all in Paris? Do they
I framed them.
there?
I mounted them and framed them in Paris, and all of the work in Paris. I printed in Paris, and then I.
So how long
I
were you
produced
there
it.
at a time? You were there long.
I was there a
know.
lot. Well, first of all, I shot the work over 4 years.
Oh, I see.
I always seem to like 4 years seems to be a number for me that I will return to something and shoot it over and over again.
Oh.
And then I spent probably a month and a half in Paris printing, framing.
And then the show.
And then the show, I went back, and I was there
then
another month and a half. It's just all these excuses to spend.
I know,
an
how
enormous
great.
amount
Do you
of
have an
time in.
apartment there?
I don't. I wish I did. I love it so much, though.
We have an installation of the one that was here on La Cienega.
Yeah, at Von Lintel Gallery.
At Von Lintel Gallery. Were those all different? I remember seeing that greenish blue
Yeah,
one, and I was like, I was sure I had to go up and put my glasses on to see if it was a painting.
I know. They really, I don't know if you have any close-ups of it, but it really is. They are paintings in a way. They're just not painting. They're paintings that are no longer exist.
But they're paintings by other people, really.
Yes, they are paintings by other people.
There's the other one, the size. You can see
But
the size.
you know what makes a photograph? It's not just the reality of it. It's how the photographer frames it and how they see it.
Exactly.
How they're presenting it. Reality is in front of you all the time. But what is it that we're focusing on?
The way you're cropping it.
Yeah. What is it that I'm focusing
There.
on? How do I see? For me, these basically trash on the side of the road, painted windows and covered up storefronts. To me, it was this amazing art that I was seeing.
Yeah, it really looks great.
And also,
there's another one. What was that? Same
so
thing?
those are it's basically a window in Paris, and you see the reflection behind.
Oh, that's the reflection.
It's the reflection of Paris behind.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's so strong, the reflection.
I know, because on that side of the street, you see the reflection of the building, which is also in the light.
Oh, because
So the
light
sun
is
is
hitting
shining
it.
behind
I see
on
it.
the building. And so there's a lot of play of what's in front of me, what's behind, which is, of course, all of my work could be called the in-between, because it's all
Right.
about this.
It's all
these
in-between?
transitional moments.
Oh, I
and
got it.
yeah.
Oh, we've been in between here.
Yes,
I've been in
exactly.
between so much. Our lives together,
That's
our
right.
parents,
Our
your
parents,
parents, my
everything.
kids.
That's right.
And the artwork in between.
Yes.
And leaving acting. I mean,
there's so much. And by the
In
way, we're
between is
always in
great.
between. We're always in between. If we think that we've arrived somewhere and that's it, we're done, it's like you're.
I saw this
always in
film
between.
at SC Film School the other day, and it was called 1/1, 1/1. And they used her diaries, and she had crossed out things, and in between were words written, maybe one or two words, and then the page would turn and things would be all crossed out, very much like what you're showing,
right.
like painted out,
Yeah.
and then one word. Where's the photography going next?
I don't know, but I think it's going to be even more abstract.
More abstract?
Yeah, I feel like I keep moving more and more.
So
into
the
things
path,
that are
the
abstract.
path.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, that could be anything, right? It could be anything.
I don't know. Yeah,
in
I'm not sure.
between.
You know, I have a feeling, actually and truly, given that we're talking about Beverly Hills, that it will have to do with my parents' house in Beverly Hills,
Oh, is it
where I
still
grew up.
there?
It's still there, and it's amazing. My father's a lot older now; he's 91, and
Is he
there's
living
this-
in it?
Yes.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, there's this sense of disappearing, of things kind of shifting and moving
You know,
away.
it's interesting because the granddaughter of the person who used to live in my house, I can't remember his name, came and knocked on the door and said, "I'm doing a documentary on my grandfather."
Oh, wow.
And she showed me pictures that her mother had taken, and she said, can I come back and film things? So it is something that generations below or behind want to save, and Ed Sullivan, I just
Right.
thought of his name. So Ed Sullivan lived in my house, and then Mac David lived in my house, and Oliver Hardy. And so there's this continuity
Right.
of what was going on. And
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
know,
I didn't
and
know
it
that.
just gave me the chills when she came, and we're going to have her on the show
That's
because
great.
she's coming in August to work, or soon, to work on her documentary.
Yeah.
Well,
and a lot of those pictures I'm going to take some of them will be documentary, just documenting the
where you
space,
lived.
and then some of them will be these abstract kind of impressions of the space.
You know who did that too? Alison Martino with her dad, because they lived in a house on Rexford.
Right.
And she had the photographer come in and photograph things so that they would remember how
Right.
it was when she was growing up.
Yeah.
So Wow. And you have a painting in this building,
I
a
do.
photograph.
You know what? Nothing makes me happier than when people call my photographs paintings.
I'm
I love
sorry,
it.
but I keep
People do
calling
it
it-
all the time. They say you're paintings, and they feel like paintings to me. I have a giant photograph in this building
I
in
know.
Beverly Hills, which
It's-
is crazy.
I know. I'm so
yeah,
glad.
it was installed, I think, maybe 5 years ago.
I'm so glad. Well, I'm so glad you came to
I'm
visit.
so happy to
and
see
I'm
you.
so glad you came to see us today. Alexandra Hedison, the photographer and old friend, and Joan Agajanian Quinn, the Beverly Hills View host. Goodbye. We'll see you next time.